Got me dizzy. What's up, everybody? Ben Rasa, Eric Lindquist. We are ready to go here for Awesemo.com PGA Live before lock. The BMW Championship is upon us. The golf season is winding down, but there's still some money to be made and some tournaments to discuss. And we start here with the second leg of the FedEx Cup today. 70 guys. One is already withdrawn, and we're going to get to that and more. Eric, how are you on this Wednesday evening?
I mean, what could be better than scouring the internet, than calling all your friends and getting in on South Dakota and California Little League unders? What planet are we on? But you know what? This is just kind of what we do. We just keep spitting out winners over here at Awesemo.com. What a ridiculous day. But man, maybe the sharpest thing that we'll never get it better than that ever again our entire lives.
Yeah, congrats to your state. They have a kid who is unstoppable in the Little League. So that is pretty cool to see. No doubt about it. All right, let's get to it. Our friends at Monkey Knife Fight are sponsoring the show tonight, and we really do appreciate it. They've stuck with us all year. A lot of money to be made over there as well. And it's not just with PGA. They've got NBA, they've got UFC, they've got esports, and certainly they've got the NFL, which we're all excited to have. Head over to monkeyknifefight.com, choose which game you want to play, your contest type, and your buy-in level. And when you deposit, use that promo code Awesemo. You'll get an instant first match deposit bonus of up to $100. Sign up today. All right. We talked yesterday at length about this tournament. We're going to get back into it. We're going to see what's changed. We're going to talk about some lineup construction. And we're also chat, because I see all the regulars. We're going to take your questions at the end of the show. We're going to get into it, see what you guys think. But let's start with the weather and the withdrawals. Patrick Reed is not here. That is one less golfer to have to deal with. Anything you see am I missing anyone? It looks like that's all, and the weather seems fine.
Yeah, it looks fine. It looks like there's a chance of some rain, but I mean, it's like throughout everything the entire day, 40% or whatever. It's like high 90s, mid 90s. Ball shall be going far. Looks like it'll be a pretty fun event here. I don't really have anything to add for weather. I'm just trying to fill up time here. Do you see anything with the weather?
I don't. First of all, with such a small field, it's not, the start times and whatnot. It's not as long of a length, anything like that we have to deal with. I think you play it very straight up. That's the least of my concerns here. Obviously, we got to keep our eyes peeled, because the last couple of weeks in the morning, there has been someone to drop out. Norlander did it. Reed did it. Ustia, I think, that was a Wednesday night one, but just keep your eyes peeled there. We'll talk about all these things in terms of cruncher and whatnot. You can definitely up the randomness in golf. I build by hand, but I'm sure you'd agree with that. We can get into all that and more, though. Let's say, is there anything in terms of the way this is structured with the tee times that you want to talk about, or is it truly one less thing to worry about?
I don't see anything to really touch on with that either. Here's the thing, their morning tee times are generally going to have a little bit of advantage. I'm pulling up some of the weather here as well, just to take a look at what we could be doing here. But you're looking at the top 70. Tee times are going to be spread out the weekend. You know what that's going to look like. I mean, it's kind of like a showdown go, as it starts off, grouping some of the tee times. I don't see anything really considerable here. They tee off at 9:40 there local. They go up until, 1:19, where you have Kazire, Gooch, Hughes. It seems like, some of the better players, it's like this middle stack in round one here. But I really don't see anything considerable. Maybe a slight bump for showdown to the guys teeing off early tomorrow. Keith Mitchell, Streelman, Schwartzel, Varner III, your boy, Aaron Wise. Number of guys there on that early wave, but I don't want to get too nuts with it. I think it's just the tier and the level of player in the afternoons. Both days are going to be a little bit higher. And then, you can maybe find a couple of plays from the trail ends.
Yeah, showdown, I think that's more relevant. But if you're playing the full slate, this is nothing to worry about. Small edges, really nothing. First round leaders, I probably would look to guys going out earlier, but these are just macro things. It's not to say you can have someone later in the tee times get it done. Is building by hand than just allowing I prefer to build by hand. Certainly optimizers, it's just whatever you're comfortable with. I think absolutely both are very, very effective. I really suggest trying both out. There will be times I'll use an optimizer, whatnot. I just prefer to build by hand. I've always kind of done that. And I know you're different in that regard.
I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm different. I think that using an optimizer is one thing and one parcel of what I do in my 150, but I really do enjoy like building by hand. I think that it's enjoyable to go through. One, you get exactly the lineup that you want when you're doing it. Sometimes when you're optimizing, it can be a scatter shot. It can be a mixture of players. And the more that you've gone on and on throughout the entire season, or first season working together here, about specific player types, about specific ways of building. Everybody knows tee time stacks, but I think just building players together that correlate well, that if the golf course plays XYZ, you're going to have XYZ player play well, likewise, if not. And so grouping them together, much easier to do by hand as opposed to going through and trying to make that work in an optimizer. So many different rules that are just a little bit unnecessary that you're adding to Cruncher by doing that. But I do like building by hand probably more, but I think out of necessity, when it comes to golf specifically, I'm usually building a lot more through an optimizer just by default.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense, that it can be extremely effective. Certainly Alex and the team here do a great job of explaining how to do that. All right, we talked about this again a little yesterday, but I want to dive back in. We've had another day to digest this course. Caves Valley in Baltimore, par 72, just north of 7,500 yards. Seems like you can be aggressive off the tee. Off the tee has been a kind of a theme of the week from people trying to decipher it. I'd say medium to easy in terms of difficulty, nothing crazy. What are you seeing? Has anything really updated in your mind, or are you still kind of taking that mindset?
I'm still taking the mindset. I don't think, just from what I'm looking at, I don't think it's going to be the most difficult golf course in the entire world. If you had to set an over under, I mean, I haven't even looked at the books for this. What do you see the winning score being? I would set it at 12.
See, I would take the over on that in a good way. Like, I think it'll be maybe minus 15, something like that. I see people being able, just because it's a par 72. You know, the par fives, I think guys will destroy them ultimately.
Yeah, and that's true. And there's some shorter par fours that exist on this golf course too, but the rough doesn't seem terribly bad. I think that that's a leg up on the whole bomber narrative. Guys that might spray it a little bit. I mean, this is going to be like extremely penal, I think, when you're missing the fairways, as opposed to some of the other BMW championships we've seen where it can be. I see a lot of bombers. I also see some value in a couple of these guys. I think that's going to be a pretty well-rounded group of players that can kind of do well here. I would say maybe I've come off of being completely focused on bomber narrative. I mean, there's also a lot of ways to get it done. And I think there's a couple of guys that I don't want to be writing off that maybe yesterday I kind of poo-pooed a little bit, but for the most part, I do like just targeting the same things we've been doing all season long. Bombers, a little bit of adjusted, just more towards iron players in these kind of shootouts. If you see 15 under, 16 under being the number, I mean, really want to give a bump up to iron play, just because you got to be making birdies. You got to get yourself in position to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when you're getting to the second leg and certainly the third leg of the FedEx Cup, you know that these guys have something going for them. They're either extremely good world-class players, or they're a specialist and they're one of the best putters in the world. In Cameron Champ, one of the best drivers in the world. In KH Lee, insane irons at times. Like, even the guys who aren't consistent, they have something. So I think you can look to that to round out themed lineups. And then up top, you've got guys that it doesn't really matter where they play. If they turn it on, they turn it on, and the rest of the field's going to be in big trouble. And of course, that line starts with Jon Rahm, who I kind of want to get to on his own before we dive into the plays. Do you view him as just kind of on his own tier right now?
Yep, I do.
Okay.
There's really no way around it. And it's not just scoreboard, but scoreboard. Like, look at what he's done here throughout the entire course of the season. He won the Memorial. We'll call it that. He won the US Open. I'm just calling it a W. 69, 65, 64 at the Memorial before getting COVID there. Coming off of the heels of 4 straight top sevens. An 8th at the PGA Championship, which is by far his worst result that he's had in a while here. Masters 5th. I mean, the guy's on another planet. Has failed to not finish in the top 10 all season long. That's pretty dumb.
Let the betting markets answer the question for us. Jon Rahm is sitting around 6.5 to 1 to win. The next best price is 20 to 1. He is on an island. There's no doubt about it. It is warranted. The guy is playing out of his mind, and I don't think it's a shock that he's going to be amongst the highest owned players on the slate, even at 11-7. It's just too easy to get him in. Non-cut, people are going to be more than willing to pay down. All of this leads to Jon Rahm. So let's get into the rank 'em. We're going to do it a little differently tonight. I'm going to give 3 names, and we're just going to rank them, and then we're going to talk about them, and we'll move on. If we don't get to guys, well, that's what the Q&A will be for at the end. But let's start at the top. We've got Rahm, we've got Xander, and we've got Spieth.
So it's very, very clearly for me, Rahm, Xander, Spieth, but I would say that I'm leaning on the side of tournaments, having more Xander than Jon Rahm. I'm not writing off Jon Rahm by any means. I'm going to have right around 15-20%. But there's a part of me at 11-1 that thinks Xander Schauffele's being slept on a little bit at his current ownership. I mean, he's 11-1. That is a big, hefty tag, but he's under 10%. And it's very rare that the DFS golf community is not all in on Xander, but part of that is because his price tag generally lingers in the 9s. I feel like he's the most contrarian way. I thought it was going to be a little bit more DJ, and DJ's kind of gained some popularity, more so than I expected him to. DJ being over 10% is pretty interesting. That makes me kind of want to side a little bit more with 11-1 Xander than we had talked about yesterday. What are your feelings on it?
I'm with you. Rahm, big gap, giant gap to Xander, and then Spieth. They're pretty close. I will say, I think what's happening with Xander is that naturally when you're building, you want to play Rahm. You still can say, okay, I might want to double up north of 10K, but you're not going to want to double up with Xander most likely. I don't think a lot of people are going to start Rahm Xander because that's a tough sub 7K build for the rest of the 4. And just by a product of that, Xander's not getting ownership there. Then if you don't play Rahm, it's probably because you want to go very balanced and you want to jam 3 9K guys. Well, you can't play Xander there. So I think he's getting squeezed at both ends of ownership. And that is interesting. I still think that if I was going to do it, I would find $600 and just go get Rahm.
Somebody is saying that I want all the Spieth this week. I have 0% in 150 lineups. So I guess there's that. I had a little bit last week. Yes, I have 0% of Jordan Spieth in a 69-person event too. I just think that there's enough places to scattershot above there. I mean, 10-8 for him there. I never play this guy. And maybe I'm just sticking my heels on the ground again. He's burned me enough times this season where maybe it's there, but I just think a lot of the things he did, even last week, so unsustainable. He just sprays it everywhere. He was making back-to-back holdout eagled, and then he shoots 1,000,000 on Sunday. I'm just not going to do it. I refuse to ride this roller coaster that is just been his entire golf career. And yeah, he definitely got the driver figured out here early in the season, but I'm seeing it kind of going a little wayward here now. And sure, his short game can make up for a lot of things, but this is not looking like the golf course that I want to have any Jordan Spieth.
I'm not nearly as soured on him as you. It's more just a product of I like the other guys. I've seen the reports that he's played this course, more than most because of his Under Armour ties. I don't know what that means. I guess it can't hurt. But at the end of the day, he's just priced with other elite talents. And to me, I would much rather get Rahm. Even if I had to, I'd probably get Xander over him. And I certainly would rather get JT because that's a guy that I still think is getting it done. And we could talk about him if you want, but we're going to go to the next rank 'em. We're going to the 9s. We got Rory. We've got Bryson. We've got Hovland. Those are 3 dangerous players off the tee. How do you rank them?
Definitely Rory. Rory number 1 by quite a ways, considering Bryson's ownership. So one of the interesting things about this entire week, and I don't know if we necessarily harped in on it as much as we should, but Bryson D Chambeau at 9,300 is a pretty jarring number for a dude who's been over 10K for years, it feels like. And rightfully so. He's been a fantastic player, but one of the things that's underutilized and under talked about when it comes to Bryson D Chambeau is the putter. Like the putter is probably his most important thing. The driving gets the attention for being so positive. I mean, every single time off the tee, just ridiculous. What is it? Since the only one golf tournament since January, it was the Tournament of Champions last time. So the Genesis where he missed the cut last time that he didn't gain a bunch of strokes off the tee. I mean, he's just ridiculous. The approach has been better here at sometimes too, but around the green and putting, when he's at the height of his powers, he is rolling the rock. He's getting up and down, and it just feels like his wedges and just being around the green, it's been lackluster. It's been downright bad for him. And you got to be scoring in some of these events. I mean, these are not US Opens. These are not, extremely tough spots where just ball striking alone or getting off the tee and putting yourself with a short club in your hand is going to get by with it. You got to make birdies. And I just don't think he's going to be making enough birdies over the course of this golf tournament at 9,300 to justify me wanting to click on his name. It's going to be something a lot of people do. That's why he's the highest owned player in the field. But give me Rory McIlroy by quite a ways.
What do you do with Hovland?
Oh, Hovland. We're just going to kind of like be at the field. I don't know what to do with Hovland because I don't want to get burned by him, but I also don't want to be like over-invested in the guy. I mean, he can just go out and ball strike it around like crazy. I love the wedge putting. I think that wedge is going to be a huge asset to him this week. I was kidding, but you didn't.
Maybe I'll stick with it.
Yeah, you didn't even like react to that.
No, I was looking.
Are you buying NFTs? What are you doing?
No, I wish I was doing that. No, I was looking actually at Hovland because it's an interesting group. I really am stunned. You brought this up just a couple minutes ago. Bryson, his around the green game is horrendous. I didn't realize it was that bad, and it's been like that all season. And it's true. His driving is such low variance that it's almost it's a luxury. It's an afterthought. He's going to drive the ball well. It's kind of like Cameron Champ in that regard. Mm-hmm. If Cameron Champ's effective, he has to spike putting, and Bryson's going to have to do. I mean, he's got a more well-rounded game than that, but he needs to clean up this around the green. He's lost in 6 straight. That's just unacceptable for a guy this good. Mm-hmm. And long-term, he wasn't, I'm not saying he's Jason Day around the greens, but he was a hell of a lot better than he is right now. So I'm with you there. I know we can't quantify this. I like Rory, and I still do. Rory, who always is a good interview. I always enjoy listening to him. He said he's tired. He said he's played too much golf. He should have took a couple more weeks off, and he's really running on empty here. He's just trying to get through it before the Ryder Cup. I don't love to hear that, but I still think if he gets going, he has enough in the tank to certainly tune it up.
Yeah, and he's going to get himself to East Lake more than likely here. I mean, 99% certainty he'll be at East Lake, and that kind of. Oh, I don't want to say that. Sorry, I didn't mean to like
28.
I'm just saying, well, 20. Okay. Yeah.
He so maybe should get there still. I would hope he plays
28,
well
28 to 1, my favorite bet of the entire week. So I'm just going to be playing him and not thinking twice about it. I mean, just the gap between Rory and his form and Bryson D Chambeau. At least Rory's shown some spikes here, and at least Rory can get it going, whether it was the Olympics, whether it's, having a 12th at the St. Jude even. There's a couple of times, the US Open, he got a top 10, I know as well. Like Bryson, there's just nothing around the green and putting wise. I mean, he has the top 10 at the St. Jude. He put himself in contention and then played abysmal, but that was like one of the more outlier iron weeks that he's had in a long time. And I just don't see him getting back to something like that. And so for me, the putter's not been there. The short game has definitely not been there. At his ownership, I'm going to be very, very low on that.
Yeah, I find it interesting that, a lot has been made of Rory's struggles at times, particularly, at the Masters and other places and whatnot. And it's fair. He has not played great golf. But other guys, if like DJ's playing awful as well, I feel like we don't hear that as much. Bryson's been very, very erratic, as you mentioned. He's had some really bad showings lately. It's not just Rory. And I do think that looking at him sub 95 is too appealing for me to pass up. I'm in line with you again, though. Hovland, I really don't have much to say. I think it's probably a fine course for him. He can destroy it off the tee. He's another one that can't really scramble. We know that. But he's just a good player. You've got Cantlay there if you want to be different. But I'm going to go Rory, then Hovland, and then Bryson, who always has upside, but downside, I don't think it's going to be good once again. Probably would rather bet him than do anything else.
It's so weird that it's like Bomber Golf Course and we're not playing Bryson and I'm not playing Cameron Champ. I find that to be very strange to me, but I just think the scoring opportunity is there for other guys more so.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you can't play everyone. And when you're talking about serious ownership in a non-cut, I don't mind living a little dangerously. All right, we're shifting gears. We're shifting gears for 2 reasons. One, we're going to get into the 8K range. More importantly than that, though, I mentioned this yesterday, and it is worth repeating. If, and I don't know why you wouldn't want to, know that you're going to stick around for our annual NFL package, well, now's the time to sign up because we have a promo code BLITZ. and it is 15% off the Awesemo Plus NFL Annual. It includes all the preseason DFS projections as well. And obviously, you're going to get a full season's worth of the player projections, the ownership projections, the top stacks, premium Slack, which is just honestly the best thing. And as I mentioned, all that preseason goodness from Matt Kajeski and the whole team. So promo code BLITZ, 15% off. That is a nice savings. There's no reason not to do that. We know you're going to want to be here for NFL with all the tools that the team has developed. We can't wait to get it started. If you need more information, activate it. Just click that link in the description of this video to activate. Very exciting stuff. Let's switch gears though and go into the eights and talk about a totally different type of golfer in this next batch for Rankem. We've got Abraham Answer, Webb Simpson, and Harris English, 3 guys that you're never going to confuse with Bryson, Rory, and Hovland.
So, I mean, Abraham Answer, let's start with him because coming off the win at the St. Jude, the Northern Trust was abysmal. It was just bad, but that happens a lot for guys who have been playing. I mean, the guys had unbelievable form, just unbelievable form this entire season. And I just think he's kind of being punished for one bad week here. 11.2%, 8,700. Maybe it's a little bit of a price thing as well. And Hideki's had some good form as well. I think you brought him up in that trio, but Abraham Answer for me, 11.2%. He's one of the players that I have circled as guys that I'm higher on today than I was yesterday, as you've been digging, as we've been putting in some work on it. What was that?
No, that's interesting. That's that's kind of stuff I want to know. So someone.
So this is kind of the process of it is I try not to look at ownership until Wednesday. I land on the guys that I like and I try to figure out exactly whether or not. So he was not in the I like him category. And I was trying to figure out exactly what it was. And it was just putting such a strong recency bias on one bad tournament. And that's kind of the issue with the playoffs, I think, a little bit for me, is that you try to look at the whole thing encapsulated as opposed to just a regular golf tournament, the way that it is every other week. And he didn't play well last week. There's no question. He still made the cut, but did absolutely nothing with it. Shot 4 under there. He at least went low on that Saturday, did not play well in the Monday finish, 72 there, but it wasn't like abysmal. He didn't have everything firing the way that he has pretty much the entire rest of the season. Around the green, lost a shot. His chipping had been the thing that I think was suspect here or there, and he really cleaned it up. St. Jude, he was so clean, hitting a lot of those little bump and run 8-iron shots around the green. And then his approach, just out of the middle of nowhere, disappeared here. And we know he needs to spike that. He's always going to be pretty positive off the tee. And I just think if he spikes one of these iron weeks, the putter has just been so much better than what it was at the beginning of this season. And that's really what's ridden him to so many top 10s. I mean, the Valspar, Wells Fargo, PGA, Travelers, St. Jude, it's 5 top 10s in his last 9 events. So I absolutely love getting to Abraham Answer in this range, considering I expected his ownership just in the back of my mind to be higher than what it is.
I get it. I like the case for him. Certainly accurate off the tee, playing great year for him, breaks through, all of that. I'm going to downgrade him a little because it's a non-cut. I think he's more of a stability guy than a wild man. He doesn't miss a lot of cuts. He's just, you kind of know what you're going to get off the tee.
He just won a no-cut event.
Yeah, that's a good point. He won a WGC, so he got it out of his system. Yeah. He can't win another one. There's no chance. That's
what it is.
I'll spin it any way I want.
I was gonna say you were just trying to be like, I'm gonna make him a terrible play. You did, and then I just threw it in your face, and it felt great. You're welcome.
Yeah, I should have looked at that before I went on this. But I mean, listen, it's pretty simple. At the Northern Trust, he lost a stroke with his approach. Can't have that. I think we know that with Answer. Everything else has been fantastic. It's a product of me liking Decky a lot. I think that Decky's coming off a pretty bad week with his irons. I think he's going to flip it. The other two, it's going to be a product of ownership. I'd rather play Webb over Harris English, and that's because I think Harris English could be upwards of doubly as popular. I don't really like either of them, to be honest, though.
No, neither do I. I'm going to be siding more on the upper spot here. I like going to Hideki too. Again, his recent form up until the last 2 weeks had just been pretty impeccable as well. Played well at the Olympics, didn't quite medal there. The FedEx was right there again. Just another one of those guys that you gotta kind of put in that bucket of players. This upper 8K range, and then for me, just kind of going Xander off Rahm, that feels very, very uncomfortable. But I think the ownership, I mean, this is the right question to ask about a couple of these ranges, is number of times that a certain guy outperforms them. Like the 8K range, it just feels like the ownership is so flat. You can just kind of play your dudes. The Rahms versus Xander question has been bugging me all week. And then figuring out which guy I was going to side with in the 10K range. I ended up getting on Justin Thomas up there too. We didn't even talk about him, but I thought DJ was going to be much lower on than what he was. And so now just give me the guy that I think is going to start turning it on as the putter starts heating up here again. But this upper 8K range, I mean, Abraham Answer, I don't want to play Corey Connors anymore too. So there's been quite a few shifts in what I've looked at. I mean, 15% for Corey Connors being the highest owned dude of the grouping outside of, I'd just rather play Scheffler. I'd rather play Hideki. I'd rather play Answer. I'd even rather play Webb. And I know Webb jumps up for Alex every single week, but what are you kind of doing to get a little bit different? Or are you kind of smattering the same guys that I am?
So the interesting thing about ownership this weekend, and obviously when it locks, you'll see some shifts and whatnot. That's just a product of what happens. But for the most part, it's not, I like this guy, but I'm getting 150 ownership on his neighbor. I'm going to roll the dice. This is small edges. So you're really playing best available, as you kind of alluded to. I like Decky in that regard. I like Paul Casey at 8,200. Okay. I think
he's always like Paul Casey.
I really do. Just playing quality golf. He's another guy. I think he doesn't, benefit from a non-cut because he's very stable. He just does what he does.
At the FedEx.
Yeah. Again, with these stupid, but he's just good. Him and Neiman at the bottom of the range. I would rather play those guys, but you're truly not going to find the ownership pivots in the 8K. It's very, very flat.
What are you going to do with Joaquin Neiman this week? This is the toughest guy for me to peg down what I want to do. 34th at the Northern Trust didn't inspire a lot and really hasn't inspired anything outside of the Rocket Mortgage. I didn't really know what I expected his ownership to be at 8,100. We've seen it just fluctuate so wildly from tournament to tournament. Probably a product just of field strength too. And you got to always consider that. But at 12.6%, I feel like he might be another guy that I write off the board this week, which makes me feel awful because I almost always play this dude, but you can't play. I'm trying to make sure that I don't play everybody. This isn't like 160 golfers where I'm able to kind of pick and choose where I want to go and know that the ownership isn't going to be pronounced going certain directions. How do you handle Joaquin is like just inability to top 10 right now? Yeah,
it's tough, but I'm more apt to buy on him just because of the talent. And I did some digging with him. So in 2021, Neiman has gained strokes across the board, which means in all four categories 3 times. He came in second in all 3 of those tournaments. Last week at the Northern Trust, he gained off the tee with the approach and around the green, but he lost with the putter. He's been positive in strokes putting in every event except for this entire year. So it seemed like it was pretty close. And he has shown when he gains, obviously with the ball striking and the putter, you're going to get a good output. He was positive in 3 of 4. He just couldn't get it going on the greens. I think he flips the greens back. Before that, he had gained strokes putting in 9 of 10 tournaments. So I actually think that Neiman is primed to kind of sync up the irons and the putting. He's a good scorer in a non-cut setting. Price is right. I think Neiman is definitely in play.
Oh, crap. Well, at least now I get to blame you no matter what happens, which is fun because
I'm on a 1 week don't blame me streak because of HV3. So
that's true. That was an absolute call from the
We're going to try that with Neiman. So
yeah, I mean, it didn't work out well at the end,
but I can only do what I can do.
I mean, it was a Thursday victory lap for sure.
That's the only kind of victory laps I got. All right, moving on. We dive into the sevens.
Oh, hang on. Joaquin Neiman putting on bent grass, fast greens, 9th in strokes gained over the course of the last 50 rounds.
Same. It's all syncing up.
This is not good for me. This is very, very bad for me. I could have just gone to bed, kept my lineups the way that they are, and probably been better off here now because
that's
shit. True. Okay, go ahead.
I didn't even build mine, and that still holds true. All right. We're going international. Sergio, Lowry, Norin. What say you? Rank them.
Well, I mean, Sergio last in regards to, don't you have to get the ball in the hole to complete the hole?
Allegedly.
Okay, so allegedly, if that's still the case, then I'm probably not going to play Sergio Garcia unless he gets to play the game that Ben Hogan used to, where it was like hit the green, pick up the ball with your friends. That's a thing that happened once upon a time. I do not like Sergio Garcia on any golf course where I believe, let's group this. 69th out of 69th at putting. Oh, color me shocked. I'm not shocked whatsoever. I would rather Shane Lowry's odds this week were shocking in the books. I mean, he was like 35-1 to win, and it hadn't really budged in a lot of those places. I don't know if you saw anything better, but I would say he was one of the surprises that I saw in terms of odds. I mean, obviously I wasn't going to pull the trigger at that short of a number, but has been just quietly consistent. And then some of these big events, the Memorial, that's been a comp course we talked about yesterday. The PGA fourth, not a comp course, but still just playing well in some of these bigger events. I think the upside's there for Shane Lowry. I'm fine getting to a little bit, but this entire 7K range, this upper 7K range, I'm not super enthusiastic about it.
This is where ownership starts to wean down. You got guys sub 10%. Sergio is 110-1 in the betting market. I think that's worth a play. I don't care what anybody says.
Nope. I will say the other side. It is not.
Right. What do you want me to do? I mean, the guy, he can do it. Seems unlikely. He was awful last week with everything. It wasn't a putting issue. I don't know if that
was an all golf issue, but again, if you want to donate money, just donate it to charity. Don't bet on Sergio Garcia.
Yeah. Noren is someone. So there's a handful of guys that I kind of want to ask you about. And I think the answer is you got to take it on a case by case basis. There's a handful of guys last week that really made a jump. HV3, EVR, Noren, guys that were kind of in contention, really good week. Do you say, okay, they're on a heater and they're going to make a run in the FedEx Cup? Or do you say they're actually now all overpriced because, they played well last week?
I don't know. I mean, it looked like everything was good except for the irons for EVR. That was kind of the thing that I had noticed yesterday. Let me see. All right. Yes. So ended up 8.7 strokes gained total. Obviously a fantastic golf tournament. 6.8 strokes gained putting. That is a large, outlandish number for a guy who, even when he was winning, I don't know what that number ended up being. We don't have the strokes gained total there from good old Tahoe, but he got a W that's not listed here. So there's that. But his putter has just been abysmal for the most part, except for the Palmetto, his one top 10 that he had before the W. Northern Trust here, I got to think that that's a little bit of an outlier. The strokes gained approach there, minus 1.5. I'm probably not going to be there in any kind of meaningful way. In 150, I'll probably get to a little bit, but I'm not going to go nuts with him. HV3, I'm still going to ride with. I think I'm back with the HV3 train. He was so bad off the tee. It was absurd. And he still got an 11th there. Can it get worse? Oh, I guess he's had some bad ones there for the most part, but I don't think he's that bad of a driver of the golf ball, but he's almost always gaining with the irons, and he's a great putter. So I think all in all, I'm happy to try to side with him in an event where, a little bit more balanced. I'm happy to add him into the core.
I like HV3 as well. We were kind of on him last week a little bit with the irons and the putting, and I think if he can mitigate his off the tee, he could play well again. I do want to circle back real quick. Okay. Friend of the show, Michael Yarbrough. He asked about the Usti news. So Usti has said, I'm struggling with a bad neck. I walked the last 4 holes today in the Pro-Am. I couldn't finish. This is from Dave Tyndall's Twitter. Appreciate that. That's all I got. That's concerning, obviously, but it's going to make people very scared to play Louis as well. He's, of course, a withdrawal risk.
I'm playing Louis. I don't care.
Did you not hear what I just said?
I don't care.
Okay. Wow.
I'm going to play him.
Bold. What if he withdraws? You going to still power through?
Dude, I played Jason Day before he had a child at the Memorial. Like how'd
that work out?
Yeah. Somebody said that somebody literally just said Eric's so risk averse. Gerardo, I tell you what, I played Jason Day knowing full well his baby could be born, and then he withdrew after lineups locked, and I had 20-something% of a dude who was 2% and had a child. So
I know how that goes.
I do not care. Here's the thing: over the course of a long haul, do you want to have a 2% Jason Day at Memorial in a golf course in his home backyard, or do you want to play, a 15-20% Corey Connors or whatever the shit he was that week? It was so bad. So legitimately, I don't care. I mean, I'm happy to just burn some money with a guy that is going to go underappreciated because of that. If I was putting an uncomfortable amount of money that I didn't feel good about, sure, yeah, I'd probably be more risk adverse and not play a dude with a potential 0. But if people are going to get away from it, that seems like a great time to invest. I do not care.
Yeah, I mean, I think long term that is a move. Just you have to be prepared for a zero, though. There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
And if you think the ownership craters to a ability where you get paid off for that, I have no problem with it. I did that. I'm the only person in the world who upped their exposure when it said that DJ fell down the stairs and wasn't going to play because I thought he was.
That was me with Tony Finau at the Masters when he dislocated his ankle.
So that worked.
And that worked out really well. Yeah. Oh, the DJ.
Sometimes it works.
The exposure and he withdrew. Yeah, no, I upped it. He dislocated his foot. He was under 5% at the Masters and he top five.
I wish things worked like that. All right, moving on. We've talked about Varner. I think we're both into him. Then there's a couple, like I said, different types of players. Nobody's going to play Kisner off the, he comes off a ridiculous win out of nowhere. Then he goes just back to irrelevance, 8 over. And then you also got EVR, who is in the Noren bucket, as I said. Any interest in these guys? Or are you saying, you know what? They're flyers in the mid sevens that I don't want anything to do with.
So, I mean, they're not like flyers that I'm not going to do anything with. I mean, you saw Noren putting, right?
What about
like
him?
a zillion? Like it was like 8.7. I think he led the event in putting, something like that. So, I mean, you can always play Alex Noren. I mean, you can always have a little bit.
Both of them. Super putting.
Yeah, super putting. And that's the thing. Like you can put him on any golf course on planet Earth. And if you're a better putter, there's an opportunity where you get hot and you're just going to go out and compete because of that. You can just get the ball on planet Earth, hit a 2-iron everywhere, do whatever you need to. Just get yourself in a place where you can be somewhat useful in that regard and put it up there. Let me find Noren here. I don't know why my computer is so slow today. My apologies if it seems like I'm stalling. I literally am. But 8.7 strokes gained putting here was even horrendous off the tee. How do you get a fourth at the Northern Trust being 3 shots, giving away 3 shots to the field off the tee? Like, what planet are we on?
Yeah, there was a lot of that last week. HV3 was in that. Other guys, we'll see. I think that Mike Campbell, no one should play Kisner at this course. I tend to agree with that. I don't think that's the spot. I'd rather play Brian Harman blindly for about the same price. No one's going to play him either. But let's keep working down. And like I said, we'll take some time for questions today because we're going to mix it up. We've got Maverick, Mackenzie Hughes, Brandon Grace. These guys are all 6,900. So basically your last man in balance, maybe your second to last man in other builds. Are we going to double down with Maverick, who I think we both liked him last week and he performed fine? Yeah,
we are absolutely going to re-up with him. I'm going to play Charlie Hoffman again. He was somebody that I was on last week. And that's the identical 7K tag. So the reason I'm not up here a lot on this upper 7K range is because I think the lower sevens have some value. And I'm not talking Cameron Champ at 7,300. We have him rated 10%. And I swear to God, I feel like I've heard him and seen his name everywhere today. I've kind of invested in, I've looked at everything, every written thing you could imagine that I could find. And every single person has written up Cameron Champ for a bomber golf course. Like it's so dumb. I don't get it. And so as a reflex, I'm going to have 0 Cameron Champ this week and just make a strong stand against it. Because I just don't think that he's going to be that good of a putter other than driving of the golf ball. And you talked about him being outrageous in that regard. Being a luxury is the perfect way of putting it. He spiked the putter 1 week, and I'm not going to just fall in love with that and say that that's going to be what happens. I mean, it's a guy that finished 31st, 27th, the last 2 after that, obviously the no-cut event. And people want to always associate bomber with scoring, and it's not correct all the time. You have to be able to get the ball in the hole. You got to be able to, for me, just hitting it close with irons and making putts is a far more profitable way to go about it. And sure, being able to bomb it is never a bad thing, but I just don't think he's going to score at the same clip as some of the other guys over the course of 4 rounds. And so I think I bet his ownership. I'd almost just wager money with anybody that wanted to put a side bet on it. The Cameron Champ comes in way over that 10% number. I just get that feeling he'll be in the 15%, 16% range for sure. And so I wanted to bring him up on the front end of it, but Maverick McNeely, I just love this kid, love the pedigree, love his ability to just roll the rock. And if you're saying, again, 15 under is going to be the number, you got to get the ball in the hole. Definitely going to be siding more with him. He feels like a very safe option. I would like to see a little bit more of the RBC Heritage, the AT&T Pro-Am kind of upside that we saw from him earlier this season. Those were some good weeks, but I'm really kind of thinking that he'll pop one of these weeks sooner rather than later, and I'll be there.
Yeah, I'm going to keep on Maverick. Good putter, good player. Really just, I thought he was uneventfully fine last week. And that's the kind of guy I like to go right back to. Because if he would have popped, the price would adjust, the ownership would adjust, kind of just still chilling. Cameron Champ is tricky. I agree with everything you said. I will give Cameron Champ credit. He has gained on the approach in 4 straight. He is starting to carve out a decent showing with his irons. His around the green game is horrendous. His putting is very fluky. It's been better lately, but I still don't look at this as a consistent player. Yes, he gets the par 5s, but for me, I'm with you. I think he's going to be sneaky popular. I would rather pivot to HV3. I would rather pivot down, certainly to Maverick or Charlie Hoffman.
So now we're getting into this range where I have one guy. So the one dude that stuck out under 7K that I had like 0% of. And if you check out our PGA top plays, this was the thing that I think was a little bit more jarring to me than just about anything else that I saw out of anybody. But Alex Baker had Lee Westwood sitting at around 22, I believe. And I kept looking into this and trying to figure out kind of what the narrative was. And I didn't really know what to do with that. I haven't seen a ton from him. Played really well on Friday, 65 at the Northern Trust, 9 under, kind of just floundering. Again, you get in some of these super scoring events and it becomes very reliant on putting. Is there anything else that you're kind of seeing from him? Because it's a guy that I didn't expect to click on at all. And now I'm starting to land on him in some of like bigger builds where I need 6,800.
No, to be honest, he's someone he's going to be very low owned. I think that's probably the appeal. He's had a fine season. I think more often than not, Lee Westwood I could do without. I would rather play Leishman just because Leishman is a true wild card. He can get crazy hot. He can win tournaments. If it's not going with the driver, and a lot of times it isn't, he could be dead last, but he did gain 4 strokes on the approach last week. Couldn't putt at all. I think that Leishman's more of the wild card there. I see why you'd be interested in Lee Westwood because he's very well-rounded, kind of just going to do what he's been doing all year. And he was fine last week, more apt to roll the dice, but I see some guys below them that I'm go ahead.
The main thing is that in terms of DK points. And so like for me, you can look at birdie average. I also group on DK points just to see who's doing well in DraftKings scoring. Lee Westwood is dead last in the field. This is a no-cut event. So I was really kind of trying to dig into exactly what that meant. And that's a sample size of over a year where he's played very well as well. And that's the last 50 rounds. I guess he's been playing a little bit more golf, but that's going to be those great tournaments he was playing back in the spring are all within that sample size. And so I was a little freaked out trying to figure out what to do in this range. So maybe Leishman is kind of the wild card where you land on. Sebastian Munoz, we know, can be a decent enough scorer. Brandon Grace really kind of jumping out as a guy who scores well underneath DK scoring comparatively to the range. And part of that is just being another exceptional putter. Man, I should just play an all putter team, I guess, is kind of what
there are lineups like where you can go around the green and putter heavy. I don't mind that. Yeah. Killa Keith would not be on there. He is down there. Certainly can get crazy. I like Max Homa though. I think Max Homa is someone when he gets going, it can be really good. Muirfield Village played very well there. Winner at Wells Fargo previously. What's not to like? If he can drive it and he's a good driver of the ball, I think that Max Homa is a sneaky play. But of course, before I pass it back to you, Aaron Wise is the play down here. I love the spot. He wasn't good last week with the putter, but he still came in 21st. He is primed. He scores like an absolute fiend. He is so live to outscore his placement points. And that is really what we're after. At the end of the day, yes, you want the guy to play well, but you really just need him to score. That's the whole point of all of this. Yeah, so maybe I'll just go Wise and Homa and leave like $1,000 on the table. I'm okay with that. I think that that's an okay way to do it. I already brought up Schwartzel at the 6,100 last week, whatever. I like Wise. I like Homa as well. Those are two guys that you're kind of linked to. I think Aaron Wise is your new Griot. You just traded in Griot for the new shiny model that can't putt. I mean, it's better than Griot. Griot's playing awful, and he's not even striking it good. Quick question from Chad, and we're going to get to more of this in a second. Any love for Stuart Sink? For me, I'm kind of indifferent. I'd rather play the guys we just talked about. I feel like he's played really well on like tactician type builds and I don't see like RBC Heritage and some senior tour Steve Stricker kind of golf courses that we're kind of looking at. And he was bombing that 3-wood earlier. And it's so weird to try to like
identify, hey, I want to Brandon Marsh 3-run homer. Oh, let's go. I'm a happy boy. Sorry, had to interject. You get the home run alerts, and it just I'm like a dog.
I don't get
like
home run alerts.
I'm like, oh, Brandon Marsh, my highest owned batter that I have in the outfield. So there's that. Show us the Carfax. Let's go back. We're talking about golf, right? That's the sport this show is for. I get confused.
Continue. I'm listening.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no. So Stuart Sink plays really well in like the tactician builds. It took me a second to get back to it. I found it, and I'm not going to really kind of go there in any kind of a meaningful way.
All right, we got a couple more. Here we go. The cheapies. You got Charles. You got Taylor Gooch. You got Ryan Palmer. I think it's dependent on how much you want to jam Rahm. I don't mind them. I think Gooch would be my favorite. I'm worried about Charles off the tee. He's lost 10 strokes in 2 weeks off the tee. Fair. Palmer, I'm indifferent. I'd rather play Homa. I'd rather play Homa. So also, we're totally screwed this week. Most likely, but that's all right. All right. Best bets. Let's go to that quickly. Then we're going to bring it back to chat and have some fun to close out this Wednesday night here. And I do want to say college football is starting literally on Saturday. Tomorrow night, me and Matt Kajeski kick off the season here at Awesemo. You do not want to miss that. Betting, DFS, everything, all things college football. Be there. That's all I'm going to say. Just be there. All right, let's get to it. You bet Rory 28-1. I bet Rory 28-1. Is there any other bets that caught your eye? I found a 20-1 JT. I think that sounds lovely to me. 18-1 has kind of been the prevailing number that we've seen there. If I was willing to play him, north of 20 last week in a 120 person event, I'm going to play him at just slightly shorter odds, having just 70, even though you get the same top tier talent. That doesn't change anything there. Still one less grouping of players to have to deal with. So I think JT around that number is just fine. I just took Louis off my betting card. So I tried to figure out if I could hit some cash out buttons and remove some of those. We'll see if it ends up happening. I had him as a top 5 at plus 450. I feel like 4.5-1 on the best putter on planet Earth and a guy who's just been in fuego. I thought having some rest would be a good thing for him, but hearing withdrawal risk, I'm still going to play him in DFS. There's no way around it. I don't think that's going to be hitting eject, but there's no reason to go out of your way to go bet on a guy that legitimately has a 0 risk. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I like Aaron Wise. He's 12-1 in the market for a top 10. I think that's a nice conservative, gives you a little buffer, but you still give a nice payoff. I mean, that's twice as good as what you get for Rahm if he wins the tournament. And I know it's John Rahm versus Aaron Wise, but Aaron Wise can compete. If he gets going and the putter's not a liability, he can be out there. If you want more bets, me and Josh Engelman did film the PGA Contenders video available on the Awesemo Odds YouTube channel, which if you haven't been over there, no reason not to go and subscribe. We've got a ton of good content from me, Eric, and the entire team. Betting centric, a lot of value over there, including our PGA bets. But we've got about 10 minutes left here. Chat, this is what we're going to do. Hit the like button, ask a question, show us some love, drop your questions in there. We will get some rapid fire as we bounce on out of here. First one from Ozzy. Thoughts on Cam Smith? Cam Smith, I'm probably going to have a little bit. I don't want to make him any kind of, he's not going to be a core play for me whatsoever, but we know he's going to have to join that all putter team that I am bound to create. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I listen, he's been great. He can really putt. Not really my ideal player per se, but I get the merit if you want to pay for him. What are your recommendations for randomness and unique for 20 and 150? Like I said, not my area of expertise. Mm-hmm. All I would say is don't be afraid to kind of up it a little more because golf is such a high variance sport. Well, and up it even more because this is a 4-round golf tournament where a lot of things are going to happen where there's the opportunity for the scoring to get even more drastically variant. Normally somebody misses a cut and then, this is the right way of saying it. It's going to be a tighter grouping. And so the difference between a guy who's 7 and 8 under cannot be as differentiated because everybody's making the cut. So most of the time, the value of playing some of the chalkier players is you get through the cut, you get those weekend points. And then the other guys who are playing riskier players or somebody misses it on the front end, there's that. But for me, traditionally, I'm putting in a randomness around 40%.
kind of like putting that as the number. Usually go 2 unique. So I'll mess around with that depending on it. This kind of a week, I just kept it at 1 because it's a shorter field. I don't want to get too off of my core. And so I'm not going to try to get down to a lot of the guys, but they'll still kind of leak their way in. Like I'm looking at 2% Lucas Glover, 2% Harry Higgs, and 150, stuff like that. I don't want to remove them, but I want to keep it to my core.
Cameron Davis or Brandon Grace, last man in?
Got to be Brandon Grace now for me. Cameron Davis, I mean, it's a tough guy for me to kind of get to. I mean, he had the really, really nice week that he had in Detroit. That really stuck out and was just gaining across the board. But traditionally, been very bad around the green, been very bad with the approach. And those kind of things are not going to be good on any kind of golf course that isn't set up a little bit tougher. Again, he's shown the ability to go out and win, and that was a scoring fest. So maybe I got to kind of rethink that. But there's not a whole lot there. Looks like off the tee, pretty flat. Nothing really that he does exceptionally well. Whereas I know Brandon Grace, I get the upside of a dude who's competed in majors and can definitely get the rock rolling at any given moment.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd go Grace. Bryson or Rory? I think it's Rory for both of us, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Decky or Webb? Be Decky for me.
Decky for me as well. I know that's going to disappoint Jason Rossland. It's going to disappoint Alex, but we're going to both be on the Decky side of that one.
Yeah, I'm just going more of a pure long iron than a putter in that sense. Thoughts on the Rory nose? We talked about it a little. It's obviously a little concerning because I believe when Rory talks, he's being very honest. But I also believe if Rory can get off to a hot start, it's not like he doesn't want to win. It's just, he may be running on empty and maybe he's not bringing his A game as much. I still think this is a very, very good course with him. Will you buy me a Rolex when you win big money? Sure. Cantlay or Hovland? Patrick Cantlay for me, again, I think this is winner at Memorial several times. Pure ball striker, was fine last week, kind of lurking on the board, never made that big move, but I think he's in a good spot.
Definitely agreed as well. I'm going to go on the Cantlay side. And cheaper. I kind of need that a little bit. I guess they're the same. Sorry, 92, 91, but Cantlay definitely landing on more of my builds.
Who is the best approach at courses that have large hills? That I have no idea. Just standard approach numbers would be what I would do. Good ball strikers for me are just good. It travels. That's what I would say. You're a golfer. Does that matter?
No. I mean, the smaller the greens, I would say the better off it is for good iron players. But then I guess they suppose maybe it's bigger greens because then they can lag. But I'm not sure really how to quantify that specifically. But what I do know is that Colin Morikawa is always going to grade out whenever you look at anything has to do with strokes gain approach. Going to be at the top of the board along with JT, your boy, Paul Casey, and then my guy, Charlie Hoffman.
One and done, shifting gears a little bit. Rahm this week or save him? I actually think I'd use them because I think a lot of people are going to save them.
You think people have not used John Rahm in their one and done so far?
Well, I just assume the question, the person asking is asking about Rahm. I would assume they have him. If you don't have them available, well, that makes it a little harder.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I would absolutely use him in this event because you're guaranteed. Like next week, you can get placement points from so many guys.
Yeah, I also don't know how that's going to work because with the way that's structured, so it depends on how your pool's doing it. I like the pools that kind of end before the FedEx Cup playoffs, to be honest.
Agreed.
Thoughts on Tringale? I don't really have any, to be honest. I get why you might want to look to him in the mid-range. For me, I prefer Varner. I prefer Sergio because I'm making a stand there a little bit with it. Yeah, I know. But you got to do something in a non-cut. And I'm willing to die with Sergio and I probably will, but that's also my out if he really somehow binks it.
There you go. As long as you're willing to accept the consequences of your actions.
It's like you're with Uste. Like,
oh yeah, no, I'm a sicko. But one might be able to get the ball in the hole in the event that they play, and the other one, no matter what happens, will not.
Well, I mean, Sergio could withdraw. That'll be my out, and then I'll just blame it on that. What about Vegas? He is someone also great driver of the ball. I think he's a pivot off champ.
I agree. I'm just fine with that. I think there's a number of guys. I don't want to be playing Billy Horschel. I don't want to be playing a lot of those guys. 7,300 there. 7,100, you've got Jonathan Vegas. We didn't even bring it up. I do like a little bit of him too.
Oh, wow. Pulling the Pat Mayo. Shout out.
I had to. It's your boy. It's your boy.
Good man. Sanjay Emmer or Neiman. That's a close one, but I'm going to go Neiman.
I'm not.
Oh, wow. You're going Sanjay?
I hate you. I'm going to go Neiman. That was the impulse of yesterday and the impulse of everything. And I'm still so conflicted on Joaquin Neiman, what to do with him. I don't want to play Sung Jae. So I guess the answer would be Joaquin Neiman, considering I'm thinking about playing him now and you're talking me into him slowly, but I don't want to play either. Don't make me.
Cash, Hoffman or Maverick? I think it would be Maverick.
I think cash, it's probably, it's going to be Maverick probably, yeah.
Last couple, Russell Henley. We didn't really talk about him. Low ownership. I don't mind that if you're going approach heavy, you're really leaning on the irons. He's that type of guy who can get nuclear hot. We both liked him when he should have won a couple weeks ago. I don't think that's the worst move.
Nope, I don't think it is either. I'm always happy to play my boy.
And the best way to go out, last question from Ty. Did either of you get burned by Patrick Reed? No, I was awake. Thank God.
I was not, but I did
but
play
you didn't
him,
play
so
him,
it didn't matter. No.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
Yeah,
look at that.
Times.
A lot of questions up, a lot of questions down, chat. This has been fun as always. If you can do us a favor, just hit that like button, support the show. It's the easiest way to do it. It's totally free. And we hope you guys have been enjoying golf all year. Obviously, we're going to be shifting focus a little for NFL. But of course, we will still have you covered. Every time there's PGA golf, we will have content here at Awesemo. So for Eric, myself, Jordan behind the glass, good luck this week. Enjoy the second leg of the FedEx Cup. Don't rip me too hard on Twitter when Sergio plays bad. We're going to try. We're going to do our best. And I'll see you guys next week.
Give you odds on him shooting under par, period.